to advocate for equal workplace beyond our company as well. So, to kick off our event today, let me welcome our first speakers. First, we have Carl Preissner, our leader of Global Diversity and Inclusion at P&G, and Balaka Niazi, our Vice President for P&G Korea and our APAC Executive Sponsor for Gender Equality. They're joining the stage to talk about gender myths. Please warm welcome for them. Again, one more time.
Great. Thank you, Clint. Thank you. I could not be more excited to be here. And I appreciate the opportunity. I'm not actually from the region, but I was here for some of our MARC workshops, Men Advocating Real Change, some of you know what that's about. And when I found out about this happening, I wanted to make sure I was here, and I appreciate you found a way for me to participate. This is so incredible what we're doing in Singapore, so thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Carl. Welcome once again to all our honorable guests, our media partners, and our employees from around the region. I'm excited to be here. The second year now. It's the second time for us to do this VC Equal Summit. We are going to actually co-present to you the first session of the day, and it's about myths. These are the myths, the stories that we tell ourselves. These are the myths that is holding us back, and these are the myths that we must break to drive success and progress towards a gender equal world. We are going to talk about what these myths are and what can we do to bust them so that we can make progress. So let's get started.
Great, thank you. I want to start by acknowledging the audience. It's really a privilege to be in front of such an excellent audience, both colleagues of ours as well as our esteemed guests who are coming from the outside our company, all in the common purpose of advancing and realizing the promise of a gender equal world. Along with Balak and myself, what we'd like to start with is to introduce you to one of the cornerstones of how we pursue gender equality at P&G, because it's so important for how we plan to do this inside our company, but also in our aspirations to take this outside as well. So let me actually start, before we get into that, with a provocative thought. In early 2017, when we began our gender equality campaign, we had no idea that by the end of the year, the Me Too movement would have exploded across the world and taken the world by storm. And as a result, we're having this conversation more than we ever expected, in audiences larger than we ever expected, places like the G7 Summit, in new audiences like the Bloomberg Equality Summit. We've seen the conversation expand across social media platforms of all kind, and we even see how pop culture has picked up and is heroing women in new roles in movies like Wonder Woman, movies like Captain Marvel, The Incredibles 2. But in business and in government and in organizations of all kinds, while we should be making meaningful progress, too often we find that we've stalled or are actually going backwards. And I'll give you the example. Maybe the most noteworthy, you look at Fortune 500 CEOs. In 2017, when we began, there were 32 female CEOs of our largest 500 companies. A year and a half later, that number had dropped to 27. And we'd gone backwards. And there are other examples of this. Really, the question for us becomes, what's holding us back? What is preventing equality in the workplace for women and for all of us, really? And as a company, when we wanted to engage in this, we wanted to do it in a big way. And we wanted to bust the myths that hold women back and create a new narrative. So when we did this, we partnered with a company called Seneca Women, which is a global leadership development company with the interest of advancing gender equality for women and girls. And with them, we took a look at what was happening inside our company, but also outside. What are the patterns we're seeing for P&G, and what are the patterns we're seeing elsewhere? And what we saw were the stereotypes and the assumptions that were being used as a justification to justify lack of progress. Now, we called these myths because they're false. They're not real. But left unaddressed, they will continue to prevent progress for us. And so our goal is to expose them, to dispel them, and to write the new narrative that's going to take us forward into the future. So, Balaka?
Yeah, and let's start. So the first myth that we are going to talk about is called the pipeline myth. And I know that I think all of you would have encountered this myth at some point or the other in your careers, especially so if you are leading an organization or you are managing people. And this myth says